is Plancy Podcast on a Monday night. It is Monday night, the 14th. I just recorded an amazing NBA preview for y'all. It was great. Gave some predictions. I even went team by team. So, if you're an NBA fan, listen in for your team. Hype as fuck. I just real quick want to shout out everyone who has listened, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever it is. This past week has been statistically the best week in podcast history. Our subscribers are climbing. We are over 1K total listens on apps alone. So that's take out YouTube. So we hit that today. That was really cool to see. So you know what? We're about a year in now, and we're gonna keep doing it. We're gonna keep going because I love it, and I'm not stopping. So you can't make me. Anyway, check out previous podcasts. Check out our YouTube videos. We've got some fun YouTube exclusive videos on there that you cannot find on like audio form. That's great. My rabbit is biting the bars on his cage. I understand. I will help you in a moment, my friend. Keep your eyes on our Instagram, on our Twitter. Join the Discord if you haven't already. We are doing some cool stuff here at Plan C. We've got somebody who's been working in the service industry this entire time. They're going to come on the podcast, talk about what it's going to work, or what it feels like to work during COVID, what it's like, how scary it is, if it is scary, blah, blah, blah. Check out all of our stuff, just whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, just check it out, It's cool stuff. We've got interviews with artists, we've got interviews just with great people, and there's more to come. So what's there to avoid? Check it out. Make sure you do. All right, I'm rambling. This is taking a little too long. We're going to get into it. Plan C Podcast coming at you live starting now. Let's go. So, NBA preview pod. What are we going to talk about? So, I made a lovely little note thing for myself, and I have predictions for top 3 in the conference, MVP, and maybe some other award predictions, specific players to watch on some tiers, and some specific teams to watch. The NBA begins on the 21st, right? So that's like a week from today, actually. So I think I'm going to start with my predictions for the conference, and then I'll do little MVP talk, the players, and then once we go into teams to watch, I think I'll break it down division by division, and sort of, I have a thing where it is this team a contender? And in my books, a contender means you can make it to, the late rounds. It means you can, in my opinion, whether it's on paper or just I have a feeling, this is all my opinion. I believe that team can potentially make it to the conference finals, whatever it is, So, starting off with top 3 for conference, and again, all of my sort of explanations for how I think teams are going to come, that'll be when I do division by division breakdown, and maybe I'll circle back after I do that, but we'll see. So I think it's gonna end up in the East, Bucks number 1, Nets number 2, Philadelphia 76ers number 3. What? Yeah, I know. In the West, I think it's going to be Lakers 1, Mavs 2, Nuggets 3. Um, just, I mean, these are 6 teams that are, in my opinion, in the best position to contend right now. Again, it is Monday, December 14th. And I just think that these are the teams that have the best ability to really go out and win just a ton of games, just with the pedigree on their roster, with the coach on the sidelines. You know, all 3 of these teams, all 6 of these teams, they have decent head coaches. Obviously, the Nets, you can't quite see that yet, but you know, it's pretty interesting. Anyway, I'll get deeper into that in a bit, but I think for MVP, it was sort of hard looking at it because I don't want to rehash, but at the same time, I don't know who else is going to hit that level of MVP, you know? So I said Giannis again, just because the dude's done it 2 years in a row. Why not a third year? I think he could, specifically if he steps up his shooting, that could be something really scary. Luka Doncic, because kid's a monster. He's putting up points, numbers, all of that with crazy efficiency numbers. And he's a big time shot maker. Anthony Davis, I think that LeBron James wants to yield and not have to be the number 1 for once. And I think this season provides a perfect opportunity for that. And then Nikola Jokic, have him there just as somebody who I was trying to find sort of a 4th MVP candidate who I felt could really take that next step, just with the team around them. You know, maybe the Nuggets win 59 games and are the 1st seed or something. I don't know. And I had some dark horse picks as well. I said Damian Lillard and Kyrie Irving, just because I think these point guards, they have an opportunity a lot to really explode, but for whatever reason they don't. And when I say explode, I mean that type of year where you're handling the ball a lot, you're scoring a ton of points, and your team is winning. I know you'll say, Colin, like, that's a lot of players, but you know what I mean, the really good ones. And I just think that Damian Lillard specifically, he's been sort of hovering around that 5th place MVP finish for a little while. And I think that, you know, if you see improvement from some players and they go and get the number 1 overall seed, or not number 1 overall seed, but just the number 1 seed, which we'll get to that. I think that would be really, really interesting. Anyway, gonna move on to some specific players to watch because this is free form, baby, and I'm doing it the way I want. Anyway, so I have this in 3 tiers: big spotlight, medium spotlight, and league pass. For anyone who doesn't know, league pass is the ability to watch all of out-of-market games on your phone, TV, whatever. You got to pay for it. It's expensive, but I've heard it's really worth it. Anyway, big spotlight. Again, I'm basic here. I went Luka, that's Luka Doncic, Zion Williamson, and Ja Morant. These are just 3 of the best young guns in the game. And just in terms of pure excitement, these are, when I say big spotlight, I mean, if the game is on national TV, like TNT or something, like, go watch it, because these players are incredible and are the damn future, and they're still growing. They're still so young. So just numerous insane stat nights to be had by these guys. Medium spotlight, this is one where I'm going to say if, the game is on NBA TV maybe, could be just something very fun to watch. And I said Karis LeVert, John Wall, and Michael Porter Jr. I just think that these three players, there's, let me rephrase. They're all in very interesting scenarios right now in terms of like a big season coming up and how they'll fit in with their own team. And I just think that these three players, it's two of the most interesting storylines in sports right now, right? KD, Kyrie, that includes LeVert. And then the second one, John Wall, that's James Harden. Those are two very interesting storylines surrounding those franchises right now. So I just think it's very interesting what's going on and how that specific team plays with that specific player. I think it's going to be very interesting to watch, specifically with John Wall and Houston, because that team still does have some shooters. And you take away Harden and just surround Wall with a bunch of shooters. If he is at, 90% of what he used to be, that's still a good team. Anyway, moving on. League Pass, I said LaMelo Ball, CP3, and James Wiseman. Just three players that are going to bring excitement, but it's not going to maybe be on a night-by-night basis, and that's why I threw them in the League Pass section. I don't know how LaMelo Ball is going to do, but I have seen some of his highlights from preseason and from when he was playing other professional ball, and man, that kid can pass the hell out of the ball. I just think I think he's got a lot of talent for, somebody who didn't play college basketball and all of that. I mean, I guess that's why you're a top 5 pick, but moving on. Three teams, I think, that will truly shock people. And I guess this is a little bit of a prediction as well, but oh well. I think the three teams that we are going to be very surprised with are OKC, Phoenix Suns, and the Washington, D.C. Wizards. Saying a lot this podcast. I'm going to try and stop that for y'all. So these three teams, they are in an interesting position. I find all three are in, maybe not the Suns, but OKC and Washington are in a weird place where they have no predictions, kind of, but you do have change that is happened in the offseason, pretty big change, whether that's John Wall getting traded or Westbrook coming in or CP3 leaving OKC. Either way, these are teams that are going to have to change their style. And of course, the Suns, it's the same situation with CP3. I'm very interested to see how the team around him sort of reacts to CP3. Because you saw it last year in OKC, right? Where you had these young guys and they really stepped up because Chris Paul is a really good leader. So I think all three are potentially playoff teams. Maybe not OKC. But, speaking of DC, I think I want to get into sort of division by division breakdowns just because I think that's sort of just going to help me explain myself. And yeah. So I think we were talking about the Washington DC Wizards, and I'd mentioned Russell Westbrook. Listen to me. I am a child. I cannot speak. And the sad thing is, that's not the first time I've done that. That is not the first time I've done that. I'm just weird. It is what it is. So for DC, I think, are they a contender? Can they make the Eastern Conference Finals? Realistically, I think yes. There's going to be injuries this year in the NBA. Maybe they get lucky. It's it's obviously fringe. It's obviously fringe contention at that. But I think Westbrook infusing new life into the dead franchise, maybe Bradley Beal has a top 10 year and the pressure isn't as bad on Beal for, to make plays. And hey, that Davis Bertans, I think that's his name, he can shoot the hell out of the ball. Hashimura also is a bully. He is really, really strong. But beyond those four, there's not a whole lot going on. Although I did watch Cassius Winston in college, and honestly, I think he might be Marcus Smart 2.0. But that's a guess at best. Not even a prediction. That's a guess. So the bench depth is kind of meh. So again, not too much to write home about. We'll say yes, but barely. We'll keep it in division. I think I don't even know the names of the NBA division, but I think this is like the Southeast division, the South. I don't know. So that means the Heat, last year's Eastern Conference champions. Most players are returning from the run. I think most, if not all. I think actually that guy, Derrick Jones Jr., went to Portland. But beyond that, I think they are completely, in this, they can reload. They're in a weird place, I think, where I don't know if they'll be able to go again just because of the short offseason. And they had clearly started to physically break down versus the Lakers. So I just don't think that this team can get up off the mat like that and get back to the Eastern Conference Finals with the teams in the East right now. But Pat Riley is a wizard, so we'll see what happens. And obviously that roster speaks for itself. Very good shooters, fantastic defense. They run you around, they tire you out. And so I have no choice but to obviously put them in contention. Moving on to the Magic. I was just looking at the roster just now, and I was saying, I'm like, okay, who makes this team a 6 seed or higher? And I literally can't answer that question because I think their best player is maybe Aaron Gordon, maybe Vucevic. I have no idea. Either way, they're good players, not great players, and I absolutely have no faith in them to make a run. I mean, maybe they make the playoffs, but can they win a round? I really don't know about that. It's this team just I don't think they have it. Anyway, so the Hornets, obviously I said earlier, watch some fun highlights from LaMelo's first preseason game. But, just burped a little, excuse me. Sorry. But this team has a ton to do. And, Gordon Hayward's your number one? And I also I don't know what that lineup looks like. I really don't. Not even close to the Eastern Conference Finals, bruh. Eighth seed at the absolute best. And that would very much surprise me. And then final team in the division, the Atlantean Hawks. And they for sure improved their team this offseason. But you can't look at me in the eye and tell me that this team could beat the Bucks, Heat, Celtics, or Nets. I doubt they could even beat the Wizards unless Trae Young, turns into 2016 Steph Curry and the rest of the team takes that next step. That's pretty big thinking, seeing as they haven't even made the playoffs yet. But stranger things have happened, so who the hell knows? I'm going to move on to my least favorite division in basketball. Just because when I was preparing for this podcast, I was going team by team in each division and trying to write some thoughts about them. And this was legitimately hard for me to do with the Central division. I think that's what it's called. It's the team with the Bulls, Cavs, and Bucks. Oh my goodness. The only real good team in this division, it's the Bucks. And I mean, I'm still gonna go team by team, but it's annoying that I actually made myself do this because I don't want to talk about the Cavs. I don't want to talk about the Pistons. These are terrible teams. Anyway, lightning round, Bulls. I just don't see it this year. Too much building to do. Not enough proven contributors to even move the needle to playoff contention. Cavs. Looked at their roster and it was like, okay, it's sort of the same situation as the Bulls. Maybe 2 years behind them. Sexton is fine. K-Love exists. I don't know what else you want. I'd be shocked if this team made the playoffs. Now the Bucks. Yes. Finally, a team that I'm not going to rush through. In terms of contenders, Bucks definitely on the highest level. They're going to feast on their own division. As I'm saying, this division fucking sucks. So regular season record's not going to be a problem. I don't even know if seeding will be a problem. They'll probably grab the number 1 seed, as I took a guess / prediction in the beginning. The problem now comes in the playoffs, when everything is ramped up. They're going to need Drew Holiday to fit the price they paid. They need Chris Middleton to not turn into a husk. And they need their other role players to step up. I know that's sort of easy to say, but I'm honestly not sure what's wrong with this team beyond coming up short in big situations. And still the fact that they gave away Malcolm Brogdon, who perfectly fit next to Giannis. We're not going to get into it. And this team has shooters. Obviously, the Giannis contract situation might be a little screwed because they didn't do what he wanted this offseason. But, let's just play the season. Let's play the season. Let's see how this 2-time MVP does. Because, this could be the type of thing where it's just sort of bound to happen, and it just hasn't yet. We'll see, though. Moving on to Detroit. Again, lightning round here. I just don't even get me started on this team. Just put them in the same category as, like, the Knicks and the Cavs. Maybe even, just, This poor Blake Griffin, man. Poor Blake Griffin. Hey, he's getting paid, and he seems pretty happy. So, good for you, Blake. Make your own happiness. Moving on to the Pacers. There I go. Again. I need like a shot collar or something. And every time I say I go zzzt. It'd make for an interesting watch, because every time zzzt. All right, I'm gonna stop trying to pretend I'm funny. So on paper, this team definitely could make a surprise run similar to, let's say, the Nuggets last year. But the chance of that happening is so slim to none. They weren't even a contender before they were hit with injuries last year, pre-COVID. Plus, it's another verbal tick I need to get rid of. Add to the shot collar. That's what we'll call it. And one of their best players, Victor Oladipo, doesn't even want to play there anymore. Although he does deny this. I just think it's really hard to make it work with the roster they have. They also just fired their coach. So that's not a great thing, because that's sort of hitting the reset button. And with their roster construction, they have, Miles Turner and not Davis Bertans. Wow. I'm so mad at myself. I can't think of his name. It's not Jakob Poeltl. It's the best version of Jakob Poeltl. What's his name? Sabonis. There we go. Yeah, Sabonis. That guy's a stud, but I need to see more from Indiana before I can put them in that category. So now, moving on to probably my favorite division to write about, just because there are so many contenders. I guess it's I don't want to say the Eastern Division, the Northeast Division. Again, I don't know these names. But starting with the Celtics, Oh man, shot caller again. I put the Celtics sort of at the same level I put the Heat. Unless Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum really step up and have an MVP season, this team always sort of seems one piece away, and I still don't think they have it. I don't believe Kemba Walker can be reliable down the stretch versus some of these bigger and more talented teams. I think they could swallow him whole and just attack him on offense. This team has a lot of depth and talent, but I'm not sure either one of them, those two skills, or I don't know, could you call talent a skill? I guess an asset. I don't know if you can, add up the Celtics things and that they match up to the rest of the East. Obviously, if Jason Tatum continues his ascent, we're having a different conversation. But maybe I'll make an NBA All-Star pod reacting to my predictions. Anyway, moving on to my Brooklyn Nets. Woohoo! KD and Kyrie have finally taken the court together, and it's amazing. That's all I gotta say. Just kidding. I'm gonna talk about the Nets. Did I fool you? I hope I did. When you take a top 15 guy of all time, put him with a creative player such as Kyrie, then add a team with the depth of Brooklyn, that's a nasty team right there. That's a nasty team right down the block. They have the depth, the length, the size. They have the shooting. They have the defense. Whatever you want to put it down on paper, they have it. And, so obviously the Nets, I put them with the Bucks in terms of level of contention. I think they are really contending right now. And I think that they'll probably end up as a 2 seed. That's my thing. That's my think. That's my thought. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't know. But there's very much a path to a disappointing second round exit, I think. Whether they slump to the 4th or the 5th seed because of chemistry issues or whatever it is. Either way, again, this team is on the highest level of contention, can stand up to almost anyone, if not any. Hold on. They can stand up to anyone, if not all the NBA teams. My brain is just backwards. And, I haven't even gotten into the fact that they have contributors. I mean, I mentioned it, but contributors such as LeVert, Dinwiddie, Harris, Shamet, Allen, Jordan, all contributors. These are all players who can play on a high level. And that's putting them next to Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. 1-800, let's go. I don't even know if the letters add up to that, but it doesn't matter. Staying in New York, the New York Knicks. Absolutely not. I literally put "come on now" next to this. And that just sort of starts with the fact that they might have had a feel-good story drafting Obi Toppin, who was born in New York and such. But this team is still not good. It's not. It's not. Mitchell Robinson hasn't shown he can play defense without going into foul trouble. Kevin Knox, bust. RJ is very talented, but the Knicks are going to ruin him. They don't seem to have the staff to develop his talent, but I really hope he works out. I hope he gets out in New York. I really respect him. I think he's a tremendous player, and I think he can have a really good career. We'll see. We'll see how Toppin performs at the highest level. I personally don't expect him to rock the world this season. So, And I was looking at this roster from top to bottom. I was like, who is here this time next season? Is it going to be Mitchell Robinson? I don't know. We'll see. But it definitely not. It's put this in the category where if they'd make the playoffs, I'd be genuinely shocked. I promise you. All right. So, now that we are hanging out in the Northeast, let's take a trip on I-95 to Philadelphia. Philadelphia, same bin as the Nets. This team is at, I think, the highest level of contention, but this team is going to live and die around how well Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons can play basketball together. You know, together, they can be a top 3 duo in the NBA this season, I think. And the closest we've seen them to that duo was that first year in the playoffs with Simmons and Embiid, and they were surrounded by shooters, and they just ran people out of the gym with their athleticism. So if you can take that formula and sort of tinker with it, hey, sky's the limit. Specifically with new president of basketball ops, Daryl Morey, being a shooting fiend, I believe the Sixers will definitely be a top 3 team in the East. And, hey, maybe they'll make the finals. I have no idea. I should probably make a finals prediction. I didn't write that one down, so I'll just have to do that one off rip once I finish the West. But that one, the West isn't going to be that bad. I'll probably go a little quick. Moving up north to the great nation of Canada, we have the Toronto Raptors. And I don't think the Raptors are contenders. Not this year. This is not me saying the Raptors are a bad team in any sense. I just think they've lost too many pieces to have a realistic shot at making it past 2 rounds in the NBA playoffs this year. You know, you lose key contributors specifically to their championship-winning defense. No Kawhi, no Ibaka, no Gasol. I also don't have faith in Pascal Siakam to be a number 1. Not yet. Not at least. There's some work to do there. But Masai Ujiri, I got faith in him. Okay, so now let's go west of the Mississippi, but there's actually some teams that are east of the Mississippi. So let me get into that. Not one of the teams, I guess New Orleans is, let me think about the city. It's literally on the Mississippi, but I'm trying to figure out which side of the river Smoothie King Center is on. I want to say it's on the right side, so we'll say east. So still team on the east of the Mississippi. Pelicans. This team is packed with young talent and picks to boot. I don't think they have enough to quite say that they're contenders yet. I like the moves to get Steven Adams and Bledsoe for the young guys to learn from, but probably won't be enough. Zion, incredible talent. Probably going to make an all-star this year if he continues on his path. We'll see. Moving on to the Dallas Maverick. Yeah, you got it. It's in the this season, it's all about Luka Doncic. He is so damn good. He's actually incredible. I think he's going to be like a 4-time MVP. Anyway, they have the talent around Luka to make a good push if Luka continues to play at the level he was at. I think there's a little bit of concern for wing depth that they kind of addressed with Josh Richardson, but going forward this season, if they want to contend, Luka needs to stay consistent and Kristaps Porzingis needs to stay healthy. And there you go. I don't know if I'd throw them in with the big boys like the Nets and Bucks and 76ers, but maybe they're at a Boston Celtics level, you know? Staying in division, talking about the San Antonio Spurs. Wow, this is another division that's not really great. You know, you look at the Spurs roster and you're like, who the hell do I write about? You know, there's not really any exciting players to write home about. I know that the Spurs are going to churn out these players who are very talented, and so I'm going to be eating my words. But they just continue to retool. as we all wait until they eventually churn out another contending monster. Who maybe it never happens. Who knows? But I just, what their core is LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan. Like, come on. That's not a contender. It's not. Staying in the great state of Texas. Is Texas a great state? I don't know. Somebody get back to me on that. I think even if Harden does come back, that chemistry is gone. It's gone. It's gone. You have taken the chemistry and you have broken up with it over text, It's done. James Harden does not want to play in Houston anymore. And even if he did, they don't have the same talent to contend with the big boys in the West. Even in, come on, even bigger picture in the NBA, they're still going to get stomped out. Best case scenario, I think Harden stays and they get to a 6 seed, let's say. That's not a situation where you're like, all right, I'm back. I requested a trade, and yeah, but let's go win a ring. That's not gonna happen. Last team in division, the Memphis Grizzlies. I really do like what Memphis is doing right now and how they're building their team. Ja Morant is Russell Westbrook 2.0, straight up. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a stud. Obviously, they've still got work to do, but a team to watch in the future for sure. They almost made the playoffs. I actually think they were in the playoff tournament thing. Anyway, they're good. Not quite contenders yet. I would say they're like a 7-Eleven version of the New Orleans Pelicans. They're like, there, but 2 years away. Moving on to the Northwest Division. I think that's what it's called. It's the one with some actually fun teams, which I enjoyed writing about. The Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets. I like this Denver team a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I find they're solid top to bottom. They have an embarrassment of riches in terms of players on their roster. And it sort of sucks because you'd like to see players like Michael Porter Jr. and Bol get more attention. But Murray and Jokic are just the stars for a reason. They made the Western Conference Finals last year. I could very easily see them back. Put this team in the big boys contender. I just think they are so damn talented, and there's lots of room to grow. Minnesota, from the great state of Minneapolis. Again, somebody get back to me on now Minneapolis. This team hasn't done anything. They're the damn Cleveland Browns of the past year. Recent flashy moves may have fooled people, but they're still a year or two away. It's going to be interesting to see how the number 1 overall pick in this year's draft will fit with D. Russ and Karl Anthony Towns. This team also has not shown it can play a shred of defense. And even in this division, I think they can get stomped out. So I have no faith in this team to even make the playoffs. They've got talent, but to make the playoffs, come on now. Oklahoma City Thunder. On paper, this roster is absolutely out of the playoffs and on their way to some premium draft picks. Specifically with the departure of Chris Paul. But Sam Presti, he's always found players who can get it done. So we'll just see if they can continue to do so, or if they're finally going to steer into rebuilding versus the retool that they've been doing. They have an embarrassment of riches in terms of draft picks. So we'll see what happens there. And They're just, they've got talent. They do, but they also traded a ton of it away for cap space relief for other teams. And they took on a ton of picks, which, like, hey, as they should. They have just a big old bag of picks. But it's a team that I don't expect them to make the playoffs. I won't be surprised if they make the playoffs because this team always seems to kind of get there. But I don't think they have enough. And with Chris Paul leaving, you'll drop down a little. Moving on to the Portland Trail Blazers. I unfortunately have the same problem with the Blazers as I do most teams. I don't really see a big difference from this year and last year in terms of talent and difference makers that can, push the likes of the Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, Mavs. And I love Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, but I don't think that they can do it together. Whether it's because of their team defense or whatever it is, they always seem to have to shoot the hell out of the ball for them to be doing well. And I guess, that's sort of, that's the point of basketball. But with the Blazers specifically, they're sort of boom or bust on their shooting. And if you don't have more stuff to hang your hat on, not great. Shout out my dark horse MVP, Damian Lillard. What up? Decent rapper. Like him. Anyway, speaking of music, moving on to the Utah Jazz. I'm putting the Jazz in the same category I'm putting the Celtics in. And it's, again, the problem where I'm seeing lack of improvement from last year. I'm not sure who on this roster makes that push. And again, granted, they were one shot away from beating the team who went to the West Finals. So I don't believe that they can't do it. I just don't think that they can execute down the stretch to a season that has that caliber of success. I just don't think their roster has that ceiling. Speaking of ceilings, let's get to the NBA team with arguably the highest floor. And that team is the LA Lakers. Previous champions, LeBron James, Anthony Davis. And honestly, this is what I said. I wrote this one. I actually sort of scripted this one just because I was sort of just like, y'all already know about this team. I said, honestly, I'm writing this one without looking at the roster. There's no real need. LBJ, AD, people who said that they didn't have the part to win last year. And they did. Only few teams can handle AD. I think maybe two teams can maybe hope to handle both AD and LeBron. By the way, handle is in quotes. If anything, this team is better on paper than it was last year. And that's so true. They got Wes Matthews, which is going to be such a good get for them. I think Reggie Jackson. Dennis Schroeder. I think Dennis Schroeder is going to be such a good contributor for them off the bench. 6th man of the year potential there. And what more do I have to say? It's LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Yeah, you already know the vibes. Clippers, as we stay in Los Angeles. Clippers are worse than they were last year, I believe. Obviously, they had a ton of chemistry issues, and maybe that's remedied by Doc Rivers leaving. Plus, with Serge Ibaka on the team now, somebody who hopefully will hold people accountable. I just don't know. I really don't. It's like, like who is helping Kawhi and Paul George? Is Paul George going to turn into a black hole again? I don't know. I have to put them down as contenders just because Kawhi Leonard and Paul George is still a very good duo to have in the NBA. And I think if you were to ask 20 teams in the NBA if they wanted that duo, they would immediately say yes. But that's just me. Now, moving on up to the Bay Area. My brain kind of went durr. It kind of sucks. It kind of sucked doing notes about this team because I went to the roster and I was like, "Ooh, that's cool. That I didn't realize they had gotten that player. Like, oh wow, like nice." And then Klay Thompson tore his Achilles. And this team's ceiling with Klay Thompson was pretty damn high if things went the right way. But that's not the world we live in, right? The Warriors absolutely 100% continue to do an amazing job at building around Steph. Getting Wiggins, Wiseman, Bazemore, you know, they're good compared to last year where they just sort of had D-Russ as an asset and that was about it. But without Klay, this team can't compete. They can't. You take somebody with Klay's abilities and you take him away from that team. There's no replacing that. There's no replacing that. And Klay is so important to what the Warriors want to do, and he's the ultimate complement to Steph Curry. And without that, Steph isn't going to be able to play as well, unfortunately. So, I think Sacramento's a little more north than the Bay Area. By California people, send me a text. Let me know. I've also recently been told that saying Cali for California is really cringe. I had no idea. I had a California resident accost me recently for saying Cali. So, if you're still listening, make sure you don't say Cali when talking about California. Them Californians don't like it. Anyway. The Sacramento Kings, Sacktown, baby. I've heard lovely things about Sacramento. Heard it gets really hot, though. This team is fine, you know? They certainly won't contend in the West, and I don't even know if they'll be in the hunt for the playoffs. We'll see how Bagley develops, and Aaron Fox will continue to grow, but there's not enough here. There's not. You know, again, they're fine. I mean, I don't even know if I'd call them fine, just because I'd be shocked if they made the playoffs in the West, because the West is like just so deep with not only good playoffs teams, but with these like halfway playoff teams like the Kings and the Pelicans and the Grizzlies. Like you think the Grizzlies are gonna be worse than the Kings? Like no, they're not. They're gonna be better. I don't know. I've been pretty good with segues. I don't have a segue for this one. I'm sorry. But Phoenix Suns. You know, as I said earlier, when you bring in Chris Paul, it raises the floor of your franchise, as we saw with OKC this past season. He sort of just brings a mentality and a quality of player that's really hard to find. And even though he is very expensive and he keeps, he's not getting younger, he's a unique player and a unique piece to have. Beyond that, the team has talent on the roster, young players with tons of room to grow, whether it's Ayton or Book, whatever it is. That's Devin Booker, by the way. It's a good team, and I think with Chris Paul, I think he can absolutely push them to maybe, I don't know, maybe a 5 seed or something. Again, there's a lot of, the ceiling is higher than people think on this team. And do I think they have a good chance to make the Western Conference Final, though? Unfortunately not. It's because you just look at the rest of the West. Like, is this Suns team beating the Mavericks in round 2? Probably not. Is this team beating the Lakers? Hell no. I don't even know if they beat the Clippers. Probably not, because you just put Kawhi on CP3 and just lock him up the entire time, you know? Anyway, I'm actually all out of notes now. So from here, it's just kind of going to be me. Yeah, you know the vibes. Anyway, I wanted to keep this under an hour, so I hope I still can. So maybe this monologue will, keep it under that. I think this season in the NBA, it's all about those top-heavy teams. And just the conferences are really top-heavy. There's talent in the bottom half of both, but when you take that talent and you compare it to, like, the top 3 in the conference, those teams aren't standing up. You're not telling me the Suns are standing up to the Lakers. Relax. The Nuggets are beating the brakes off the Suns. It's just a fact. And I think that's how the NBA season is going to go. You're going to have these sort of super contenders. Well, they're not quite super contenders, but they're all contenders. And we have a bunch of them. There's like 6 to 8 like contenders this year. And I think that's really good for the NBA. I think it's nice. I don't want to say division of talent, but it's a nice separation of talent versus the past years where it's sort of just like, oh, yep, it's going to be Warriors Cavs in the finals. That's confirmed. So a nice departure from what we've had in the past. I already gave my MVP predictions. I'll say Defensive Player of the Year. I'll say Kawhi Leonard. I don't think they'd give it to Giannis again. I'd throw DeAndre Ayton into that category just because I think he could really do something this year. I'd love to throw a net center in there, whether it was DeAndre Jordan or Jared Allen, but I think that's just me being a homer. Yeah. And lastly, before I go, I think I'm going to give some champion predictions. So I think how I'll do this is I'll do 1, 2, 3. And again, this is like if you asked me in an elevator who I thought was going to win the championship. So in no order, I think Lakers, Nets, and Milwaukee Bucks are top 3 teams to win the NBA Finals this year. And gun to my head, Lakers are going to repeat. It's LeBron James, man. It's Anthony Davis. As I said in my breakdown, this team is really good, and they even got better. My dryer is dinging, so I'm going to make this wrap up quick. Make sure you check out previous podcasts on the Plan C Podcast Network. I guess we're a network now. I have no idea. Like, share, subscribe if you like what you're hearing. We appreciate every single one of your listens. Be sure to keep your eyes out for pods coming up in the future. Check out our YouTube page. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're all over the place. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. Check us out, Plan C Podcast. And that's going to be it from me. I appreciate you if you have stuck around and listened to this entire thing. And if you have, hit me up. Maybe I'll say something really nice to you because you have done something really nice for me. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. Again, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Or I guess that's what you do these days. Smash that like button, bro. Enjoy the NBA season. I will. And I look forward to hearing from y'all. And I hope y'all look forward to hearing from me. See you at the next one.